The Thundercloud, or TC, is an item exclusive to Mario Kart Wii, and hopefully it will stay that way. This is the most controversial item in the game, and many people have many different opinions about it. Today I go over why many people, including myself, have issues with the TC, the counter argument of the TC, yes there's people who actually defend this shitty item, and share my ideas on how to fix this rage-inducing item. Before I start, let me do a quick recap of what this item does. This is for the people who aren't familiar with the item or forgot how it works. The Thundercloud is an item that floats above you. After a small amount of time, it will shock you, making you smaller, slower, and have less weight. Unlike other items where you choose whenever to activate them, the TC is the only item in the game where it will activate automatically once you get it. The only way to avoid taking the effects of it is if you pass it to another player, use a star, mega mushroom, bullet bill, or enter in a cannon. Now that everyone is up to speed, let's get into the meat of this topic. As you may have guessed by now, I really hate this item. I can speak for mostly everyone who's watching this video and say that this item is bullshit. My best guess on why Nintendo created this item is to punish people who spam their items. This is what all 10 people will most likely say whenever they try to defend the TC. However, this item just isn't consistent. I will say that the idea of punishing a player for spamming their items I like. It's a concept that hasn't been done before in the Mario Kart series. It forces players to be smart with their items and use them with purpose. I do enjoy this concept, however it's the execution and properties of the TC where everything just falls apart. Remember when I said that this item isn't consistent? The reason I say this is because even when you don't spam your items like a madman, you can still somehow get the TC. Whether you're getting your first item of the race or having your previous item get knocked out of your inventory, you can still somehow get the TC. There's no clear way of how to avoid getting this item, so this whole "it punishes people for spamming" argument is just dumb to me. As I said before, you can pass the TC to another player, so even if you spam your items and pull a TC, you have a chance to pass it to another player and make them take the punishment, or get rid of it with the other methods I just mentioned. The players who spam their items aren't really getting punished most of the time because they're given many alternatives to avoid the TC. Once again, this "it punishes people for spamming" argument is dumb. And since I'm talking about item spam, let's take a look at this item. Yes, it's a golden mushroom. You know, the item that pretty much encourages players to spam it to get the most speed from it. So there's an item in the game that encourages players to spam, but also an item that quote unquote punishes you for spamming. At this point, anyone who even defends this item is just wow. You might be thinking that passing a TC to someone shouldn't be that hard.
Psych!
Maybe if this was offline you could do it no problem. However, online is where things get tricky. If you try to pass a TC to someone online, it won't even register you passing it most of the time because of lag. The best way I can describe Mario Kart Wii online lag is kind of like that warning on a side view mirror of a car. If something happens on your screen, it likely won't happen for other players. So if I touch someone while having a TC, it'll likely won't pass to that player because on their screen, I didn't touch him. You can have the best internet in the world and you'll still have a hard time passing the TC to someone online. Even when it seems you have a good distance from a player, they'll still somehow pass the TC to you through some lag pass. Think of it as a ghost that just touches your shoulder, but the only thing behind you is another person who's 6 feet behind you. The online lag in this game is kind of hard to explain, but I hope you get what I mean. Sometimes the players are spread out during the races, making things even harder for you to pass the TC since there's barely anyone within reach. It's even worse on custom tracks since some of the tracks are scaled so large, making it easy to run away from people who have a TC. It also doesn't help how there's a radar to alert players for who has a TC nearby. Having the TC also gives you a little speed boost. I get why they added a speed boost to this item, but I've given up on trying to make sense of this item since day one. The extra speed it gives isn't much, and players can abuse this extra speed to cut off as much off-road as they can while they have the TC looming over their heads. I can't tell you how many times I've seen players go up a few spots near the end of the race because they pulled a TC. The TC only shows up in certain placements as well. For example, in a 12-player room, the chances of pulling a TC are from 3rd to 8th, furthering the inconsistency of the TC. I mean, realistically, what's stopping 1st or 2nd place from spamming all their items back like a bunch of mindless zombies? The TC sure as hell isn't, and I can already tell what most of you are gonna say. What about red shells? Red shells in this game aren't that good. Players can easily avoid a red shell if they can cut the corners well enough. This item is a little too punishing as well. The players in mid to lower spots are already struggling. Getting punished by a TC will just make it worse because the time to revert back to your normal size is around 10 seconds. 10 seconds may not be long, but in the heat of a race, it's really punishing. It just gets worse once you subtract the number of players in a room. The fact that you can pull a TC in second in a 2-player room is just ridiculous. Whoever ends up with the TC in a 2-player room is just automatically going to take the L. I mean, sure you can pull a blue shell, but the odds of pulling one are very low, while the odds of pulling a TC in second are much greater than that. Now, I'm not saying the TC should be pulled in 12th place, cause that shit sounds ridiculous. However, there needs to be some sort of consistency with the TC. Then again, there is no consistency with this item. What is the purpose of the TC other than making the whole counter argument look flawed, and making me, and probably many of you watching this video, throw our TV screens out the window? Which brings me to my question. How do we fix the TC? Well... Nah, like hell I'd ever drop Mario Wii over this lazy shitty port of a game. There's already been a few changes made to the TC in CTGP. Mr. Bean has made a few options so that the TC doesn't automatically activate if you pull it. He's also changed it so that the TC enlarges you as if you activated a Mega Mushroom. However, this only applies for when you make private rooms online. Also, many people aren't a fan of Mega TCs because it will just make the item broken. With the huge amount of off-road you can cut off with the TC and Mega Mushroom combined. I can completely understand why someone would have issues with the Mega TC. Then again, this game is already broken in many other ways. From the glitches, to the ultra shortcuts, to the bikes. I'd say these things are way more broken than Mega TCs, but whatever. One idea I'd do is put a meter on the left side of the screen while you're playing. The meter itself will have 3 bars in total. This meter will increase every time you spam your items and decrease if you cool down between item usage. The whole meter will reset for every 3 seconds you don't use your item, and it'll increase if you don't wait 3 seconds between item usage. If you go beyond the limit, you'll automatically get punished by the TC on the spot. No passing it to another player, you get shot on the spot. Even if you spam near a cannon, once you exit out of it, you'll get shot. So let's say I have triple greens, and I just spam all of them at once. The bar will fill up, and I get punished by the TC because I used them all within less than 3 seconds. But if I wait 3 or more seconds in between each green shell throw, the bar will reset or not fill at all because I'm waiting 3 or more seconds to use them. I'd also change it so that it'll only take 5 seconds for players to revert back to their normal size if they get punished by the TC. This will be much more fair in my eyes. Now, this meter should only be in effect in higher spots. The reason I say this is because the people in lower spots are having a hard time as it is to keep up. Having them get a TC in positions like 11th and 12th would be too much. Another wild idea I came up with would involve the bomb boost from Super Mario Galaxy. Doesn't this guy look adorable? How about if you spam your items, the next item you pull is the bomb boo, and it'll just automatically vanish away. You don't get massively punished like you do in my last suggestion, but you don't really get an item in the process. Just like with my last suggestion, there should be a meter to let players know how much they're spamming. Also, this item should only appear in higher spots, and the only item that can bypass this is the golden. These two ideas are too detailed for them to actually happen, but I think they'll be miles better than... Guess what, bitch? It's Thundercloud time! I'm going to give credit to Baxter Burt for coming up with this idea for the TC. Having the TC be like a hot potato type game mode and battle mode sounds pretty fun if done right. Then again, battle mode in this game is complete garbage, but that's a topic for another day. I also like CreepyPotus's video on how to improve this item. His ideas are pretty good and could actually happen if Mr. Bean wanted to modify it in these ways. Give it a watch, it's pretty good. So what do you guys think about the Thundercloud? What do you think of my ideas on improving it? Tell me in the comment section below. Thanks for watching.